near speck pointing into a star-crowded field. Starlight filtered out. The comet's faint glow spread into a spectrum like a secret laid flat. In that spectrum, a series of dips and peaks, absorption and emission features, mark the vibrations of CO2, the rotational fingerprints of H2O, the telltale notes of CO and OCS. Each feature is tiny, measured in microns and millijanskis, but it is enough. Webb is sensitive to whispers. From that whisper, astronomers derive mixing ratios, outgassing rates, even directionality. A sunward lobe, where molecules stream faster, a nightside lull where the surface stays colder and quiet. Others on the ground add visible light photometry, polarimetry to gauge grain sizes, and high-resolution imaging that catches the coma's texture. What began as a point becomes a profile. What began as motion becomes a biography written in sunlight. The philosophical delight is that all this precision sits easily beside wonder. You can let numbers reassure you, perihelion dates, distances, signal to noise, and still allow your mind to drift outward into the story implied. A small ice rock, freed from its system by the nudge of a giant planet or the jolt of a collision, coasts through interstellar night. It encounters almost nothing for an immense span of time, then glides into the outskirts of a new star's gravitational field. As it falls inward, sunlight begins to do chemistry on its surface again. Cracks open. Molecules stir. The coma blooms like a slow flower whose petals are atoms and grains. For a few months, the object acquires a voice we can detect. And then, as it rounds the sun and departs, that voice fades. Silence resumes. In between, we took notes. There are practical ripples too. Each interstellar object we characterize adds to population statistics. How many such wanderers pass within, say, 5 astronomical units of the sun each year? With better surveys coming online, will we catch more before perihelion in time to mount focused campaigns? Could we ever intercept one, send a dedicated probe to fly by, or even to sample? The questions are no longer fantasy. Trajectory planners have run scenarios. Engineers have drawn up rough concepts. The time from discovery to launch is the hard part. For now, we do the next best thing. We gather a thorough remote sensing dossier while the traveler is within range. The archives that result, spectra, images, astrometry, will be mined for decades, serving as benchmarks for the next discovery and the next. If interstellar objects are reasonably common, they likely play roles in planet formation and chemistry throughout the galaxy. Some models imagine them as seeds, nuclei that, when captured by a young disk, can act as condensation sites for local material. Others see them as couriers, moving organic molecules from one system to another, contributing a sprinkle of complexity wherever they go. These are not settled questions. They are the kinds of hypotheses that sharpen with data. And 3, I-Atlas, with its CO2 heavy character, gives the models a very specific constraint to meet. If a disk makes many objects like this, what does that say about its temperature structure and radiation field? If it rarely does, what exceptional pathway produced this one? In both cases, the universe becomes less vague. Let's pause and shrink our scale again, not to kilometers or microns, but to the human. Somewhere tonight, a graduate student is coaxing a difficult spectrum into shape, subtracting skylines, flattening fields, and checking calibration lamps with the concentration of a watchmaker. Somewhere else, a team is writing a pipeline to cross-match observations from a dozen facilities, aligning epochs like beads on a string, so parameters can be fit and refit. These are the sleepers of tomorrow, their work tucked into archives that future readers will open with gratitude. And in living rooms and backyards, amateurs turn their telescopes towards star fields marked with red circles on finder charts. Most will see nothing but the field. 3 I-Atlas is too faint for small instruments under most skies, but the act of trying connects them to the project. The night sky is a commons. Even when we cannot see the current guest, we can watch the place where it is, and feel the pleasure of sharing a sky that hosts things we are only barely able to know. Just as sleep comes in gentle thresholds, so does the exit from our story. After perihelion, as the comet rounds the sun, the outgassing will ebb. Dust released near perihelion will continue to trail along the orbit, a thin ribbon growing ever more diffuse. The nucleus, having warmed and vented, will cool again as it heads outward. Gravity will not call it back. The hyperbola carries it away. It will cross the realm of the outer planets, pass through the cold confetti of the Kuiper belt, and then the darker emptiness beyond. Its next encounter of note may not be for millions of years, and even then it may only be a slight nudge, a statistical whisper rather than an event. The universe is a patient editor, and yet a trace remains. The data this visitor leaves behind, spectra, astrometry, images, will persist in our repositories. There, its CO2, rich signature, becomes a line in a catalogue, a figure in a paper, a footnote in a textbook a decade hence. A future student might compare it with the chemistry of a newly found planet's atmosphere and notice a rhyme. Or a future mission designer might use its trajectory as a test case for an intercept concept study. In that sense, 3I Atlas achieves a small immortality. It etches itself into our collective memory not as a spectacle, but as a datum, with edges crisp enough to be picked up and used. That is a lovely kind of permanence, modest and durable. If you find yourself wondering whether such encounters are portents of larger mysteries, keep one steady thought in mind. The universe is rich in regularity and surprise in equal measure. 3I Atlas is neither proof of life elsewhere nor evidence of anything supernatural. It is a natural outcome of dynamic planetary systems, of physics and chance. Still, its passage touches something deep, the sense that our world is not alone in a sterile emptiness, but participates in a lively galaxy where matter moves, exchanges, and occasionally delivers pieces of one cradle of worlds to another. For children, for dreamers, and for young scientists, that idea is generous. The cosmos is not merely backdrop, it is a network of stories. And sometimes one of those stories arrives at our doorstep, written in a hand we can learn to read. So as your eyelids grow heavy and the shoulders of the day relax, picture for a moment the faint wisp of light that was noticed in the southern sky. A visitor named 3I Atlas, carrying the slow handwriting of chemistry and history. Imagine telescopes waiting like careful readers, intent on a fragile manuscript, passing the letters of ice and dust to reconstruct a sentence about a place unimaginably far away. Let the technicalities that it comes nearest to the sun around October 30, that it remains distant from Earth, that its coma sings in the voice of carbon dioxide be part of the lullaby. The precision of numbers woven into the fabric of wonder. Breathe out, and let your mind drift along the slow arc of this traveler as it moves onward through the galaxy. Remember that even the faintest light can bring a message. The universe is larger and stranger and kinder than we sometimes imagine, and every so often it sends a traveler to remind us. Good night from Bedtime Universe. And now, as the night grows deeper and the world grows quieter, let us drift into our next journey. A story carried on the darkness above us, a story written in light. Tonight, we will follow what poets once called a river across the heavens, a gentle current of stars flowing silently through the sky. This story is called The Quiet River of Stars. Close your eyes and picture a place without the noise of lamps or screens, a place where the air settles cool on your skin and the horizon is a clean black bowl. In that bowl, the river appears soft, milky, faint at first, as if someone brushed white chalk from one horizon to the other. This is the band of our own galaxy seen from within, a sideways view of the spiral disk that holds us. People have named it for as long as we have looked up. A road of light, a milk spill of the gods, a path for souls, a sky river. Astronomers give it a simpler name, the Milky Way. But names are just doors. The wonder is what you feel when you step through. If your eyes are dark adapted, 20 minutes without bright light, no phone, no car, headlights, the band lifts itself out of the background. You begin to notice texture. The river is not smooth. It is threaded with dark inlets and quiet eddies where the light thins. Those are not holes at all, but lanes of interstellar dust, thin as smoke and wide as light years, drifting between the stars and absorbing their glow. Along the band are brighter knots and hazy patches where new stars are kindling inside clouds of hydrogen. Somewhere near the middle, low on a summer night in the south, the river swells into a soft bulge. That is the direction of the galactic center, toward the constellations Sagittarius and Scorpius, where the star clouds are dense and the dust lanes cut like long black rivers within the river. We stand on a small world circling a very ordinary star. Our sun is a yellow-white dwarf among hundreds of billions, set out on a suburban lane called the Orion Arm. Some call it the Orion Cygnus Arm, or simply the local arm, a minor spiral lane between two larger ones. Perseus on one side and Scutum Centaurus on the other. From this neighborhood, we look edge-on through the disk, and the light piles up, star behind star behind star, until the sky looks like spilled milk to the human eye. If you could jump out of the galaxy and look from above, you would see the disk as a broad spiral about 100,000 light-years across, with the sun not at the center but off to one side, roughly 26 to 28,000 light-years from the core. Numbers can feel large. Let them slow your breathing. A single light-year is the distance light travels in a year. The starlight, taking shape as that pale band tonight, began its journey long before your grandparents were born, and in some parts of the band, long before humans ever spoke. There is a black heart at the center, but not empty dense. A supermassive black hole we call Sagittarius A*, about 4 million times the mass of our sun, sits in the core like a city's weight under all the light. Around it, the bulge is crowded with old stars. Their orbits are tight, their dances swift. Astronomers have watched some of those stars loop the black hole in short centuries and decades, their paths bending under a gravity that is both invisible and absolute. You cannot see any of that from a dark field, of course. What you see is the echo. The middle of the river grows brighter and wider, and the dust lanes cut across it like slow thunderheads. Downstream and upstream from that swelling, the band thins and threads through the constellations like a silk ribbon. Through the tail of Scorpius, through the teapot shape of Sagittarius, up past the eagle Aquila, across the bright cross of Cygnus and its long tail to Deneb, curving toward Cassiopeia's crooked W in autumn, and back down through the horns of Taurus in winter. Listen to the quiet of that river. Beneath its light is a weather of gas and dust, mapped not by clouds and rain, but by faint glows at specific colors. Hydrogen, breathing in a deep red, we call H-alpha. Oxygen in a soft teal, dust grains scattering blue like smoke. The glow is not a roar, but a whisper. New stars form in cocooned nurseries. The Orion Nebula, a flowering knot in the sword of Orion. The Carina Nebula, bright and knotted in the southern sky. The Lagoon and Trifid in Sagittarius. Side by side, one, a wide pool of glowing hydrogen, the other, a pale blossom banded by dust. In those places, gravity gathers gas until the pressure and temperature rise high enough for hydrogen to fuse into helium and light, and a star is lit. For millions of years, radiation and stellar winds carve caves and pillars out of the clouds, and when the most massive stars end, they end with a generosity that shakes their neighborhoods. A supernova enriches the surrounding gas with heavier elements, the stuff of planets and rock and you. The river recycles. The river teaches the same old lesson softly. Endings and beginnings are parts of one flow. Where you stand matters. At mid-latitudes, the Milky Way arches like a great bridge from south to north in summer. In the tropics, the core climbs high, and the river thickens overhead, finer texture, more star cloud, more dark lane. In winter, the band tilts, and though the core is hidden on your side of the planet, the river still threads through Orion and Gemini, lace fine and quieter. From the far south, different reaches are revealed, the Southern Cross standing near the riverbank like a marker. We forget, under city domes and office ceilings, that the sky changes with season and latitude. The river reminds us if we let it. The facts can be gentle if we speak them softly. The disk that makes this band is not flat as a plate. It is warped, as if a slow hand had lifted its edges unevenly. The sun and its planets ride a wavy midplane, dipping above, then below the disk, over tens of millions of years. Our star orbits the center at roughly 200 kilometers per second, and a full lap around the galaxy, the so-called galactic year, takes something like 200 to 250 million Earth years. Think of that. One slow turn of the river's wheel, and the calendar on your wall is emptied 1,000 times. In that span, continents drift, mountains lift and wear away, new languages are born and forgotten, and the sky rivers for every creature who looks up is both the same and not quite the same, because our vantage point is always moving, always slightly changed. Far beyond the disk are the globular clusters, old and round, each a ball of ancient stars, hundreds of thousands gathered into spheres that drift in the galaxy's halo like lanterns at a festival. They are not on the river itself. They are like lights hung in high trees along the banks, thick with red giants and blue stragglers. Their chemistry old and spare. Look for M13 in Hercules, a hazy cotton knot with a steady heartbeat of stars. Look for 47 Tucanae in the south, a larger, brighter hive of sun candles, densely packed. Those clusters are fossils of early times. The river runs newer in the disk, where gas still pools and stirs. There is a quiet address you can memorize if it helps you sleep. You live in the local bubble, a kind of low-density cavity in the interstellar medium, likely carved by ancient supernovae long ago. That bubble overlaps with your neighbor's bubbles like soap suds, and on its walls, new stars have been born and will be born. You live in the Orion Arm, part of a barred spiral galaxy roughly a third of the way out from the center. Your sun is one of hundreds of billions. Many of those stars have planets. We know this now not as a guess, but as a repeated measurement, a song of small dips in starlight, of tiny wobbles and split spectral lines that mean a world is tugging. Somewhere, on some night under a different sky, someone could point up and trace their own river, and know that a small world is looking back, equally curious and equally tired in the good way of a long day's end. Turn your mind along the river's route, and let it walk by landmarks you may know in name even if you've never seen them raw. There is the Great Rift, a long chain of dust lanes running through Cygnus, dimming the river and dividing it into two pale streams. There is the North America Nebula, a red map of a continent in hydrogen glow. There is the Aquila Rift, a darker branch. The star clouds of Scutum, the small, bright M24, sometimes called the small Sagittarius star cloud, like a window where the dust thins, and you can see deeper than usual. There is the Pipe Nebula in Ophiuchus, a simple L-shaped darkness that stands out simply because it has the courage to be black against all that light. Each one is a piece of texture. Each one is a reminder that the river's softness is made of millions of hard-edged facts. If you lifted above the river, if you climbed out of the disk and looked back, the band would fold itself into a grand design. A central bar, spiral arms unwinding, star formation, tracing those arms like frost blooming along glass. Tidal interactions with small satellite galaxies tug on the edges. The Magellanic Clouds leave a stream of gas, like a wake on the galaxy's sea. Dark matter unseen, but weighing far more than all the stars, holds the whole structure together, an invisible frame carrying most of the mass. You do not need the details to rest. It is enough to know that the quiet you feel beneath the river is supported by something strong and steady. And there is a future even for rivers. long from now, so far that it occupies the part of the mind where fairy tales live. The Andromeda Galaxy and the Milky Way will draw together. They already are. Andromeda is coming toward us slowly in human terms, and quickly in cosmic ones. In several billion years, the two spirals will begin to interpenetrate and merge. It will not be a crash of suns. The spaces between stars are so large that very few will meet head-on. Instead, orbits will reshape, gas will rattle and compress, bursts of star formation will ignite, and the final result will be a new, larger galaxy with a new shape, a new river. No one you know will be there to see it, but somehow the knowledge feels soothing. Even grand structures have arcs to their stories, and change at that scale is a tide you can let lift you into sleep. Perhaps you are listening from a city, and the river is hidden behind a dome of light. That is all right. Part of the story of this river is that it is patient. It has waited for eyes to look up in deserts and on ships, and in mountain meadows and on quiet balconies, when the power went out and the night returned to its ancient depth. If you ever find yourself somewhere dark on a beach after the moon sets, on a hillside at 2 in the morning, on a ferry deck where the wind keeps you awake, give your pupils time. Turn off the lamp. Let the cones in your eyes rest. Let the rods take over. Let the glow sharpen. At first you will see grey. Then the grey will thicken into a woven cloth. Then a dark seam will run through it, and a bright knot will appear, and another, and the river will be there, in a way no photograph can quite teach. Breathe in and let it lay a hand on your shoulder. If you want a simple ritual to bring you closer to the river from anywhere, try this. Imagine your mind is a slow raft. Set it upon the band of light and let it drift. As you float, count gentle truths instead of sheep. 1. The light of Deneb has been traveling for more than 1,000 years to reach you. It left the star when empires were drawing new borders on parchment and never stopped. 2. The sun is circling the galaxy. Tonight you moved many thousands of kilometers around the center without feeling a thing. 3. The atoms in your blood were made in stars. The iron in your hemoglobin was built in the core of a dying sun before the Earth existed. 4. Somewhere deep in the band are clusters where stars are born every year from dust and gas, their infant light pushing away the very clouds that sheltered them. 5. The river you see is the edge-on sum of 100 billion worlds, all real, all turning, all warming their own nights. By the time you reach 6 or 7, you will feel the river pulling on you in the way a lullaby does, not with force, but with belonging. It is not just sight that brings you into the river's quiet. There is the sense of scale, spacious in a way that gives room to whatever you carried to bedtime. A worry that filled your whole day can sit on the riverbank for a while, not gone but smaller against the spread of things. There is the rhythm of cycles, short and long, your breath, the beating of your heart, the rotation of the earth, bringing night and day, the sweep of the moon around us, tracing tides. The path of the earth around the sun, bringing seasons. The sun's path around the galaxy, bringing epochs. The galaxy's future dance with its neighbors, bringing transformations. Each cycle holds what came before. As you listen, you are held too. For those who like details tucked under the pillow, there are a few more to rest on. The disk of the galaxy is not just stars. It contains spiral waves, patterns where gas and dust compress and release as they orbit, like cars bunching and separating on a ring road. Where the wave compresses, star formation lights up, and the arm looks brighter. Between arms, the light softens, but does not end. The dust lanes are not dirty. They are the raw material for future light, and they redden starlight, passing through them the way a sunset reddens the Sunday. On clear, moonless nights, observers in very dark places can see the zodiacal light, a faint triangle along the ecliptic, sunlight scattered by dust within our own solar system, the Gegenschein, an even fainter brightening opposite the Sunday. These small additions are like fireflies near the bank, joining the river but separate from it. If rhythm helps you rest, we can set the story to 1. The river rises in the south, flows up through the eagle, crosses the swan's back, passes the queen's chair, and falls again toward the hunter's belt by winter, then settles, then returns. With every return, you are a little older, and so is the light you see, but the pattern holds. This is the part of astronomy that feels like a kind hand. The sky is not a puzzle to be solved and set aside. It is a companion you can visit. The more you learn of its facts, the more it rewards you with feeling. Knowing the name of a nebula does not steal its mystery. It adds a note to a chord you already love, and still, beneath all the texture and all the numbers, there is the simple act of lying back and letting the white band pour across you. Somewhere along that band, on a small world with a name we have not learned, another listener may be doing the same, letting their mind drift along their river, counting their truths, thinking their own future, and carrying their own day into the kind night. When you share the river, you share something large without needing to own it. The light is given freely. The time was paid long ago by the stars themselves. If you find your thoughts wandering to distances and durations, let them. Let the mind take a slow walk. Light crossing the space between stars, collapsing gas, warming into stars, planets taking shape from rings of dust, like snowflakes growing on a windowpane, oceans forming, air thickening, creatures lifting their eyes. None of this is rushed. The river has room for slow stories. Your story is one of them. Now the night grows deeper still, and the world grows quieter still, and the river goes on doing what it has done since before there were people. It gathers the light of uncountable suns into a band we can understand at a glance. Not everything has to be solved. Some things are here to be trusted. The Milky Way is one of them. You can rest beneath it without finish lines or arguments. It will still be flowing when you wake. So breathe in and breathe out, and let the quiet river of stars carry you. If your eyes are closed, picture that soft band and the dark lanes braided through it. Picture the bulge low on the horizon, like a slow sunrise of far-off suns. Picture the way it arches up and over, east to west, season to season, age to age. If your eyes are open and lucky enough to be in the dark, let the band have you whole for a minute. Let it make every small noise in your life seem smaller, and every kind thought seem larger. In the end, that is what the river is for. It is a reminder that we live inside something vast and patient and ongoing, and that our days, bright, messy, dear, are carried along by a current we can trust. When you are ready, you may set your raft against the bank and step into sleep. The river will be here when you drift back in the morning. It always is. It always has been. Good night. May the hush of the galaxy be the hush of your room. And may the quiet river of stars guide you gently, steadily, all the way into rest. And now, as the night settles deeper and the world loosens its grip, let us lean into a quieter orbit. Take a slow breath in, let it drift out, and imagine a small, golden circle turning in the dark. No countdowns, no roar of engines, just a record, patient as a heartbeat, sealed to the side of a departing machine. This is our next journey. It begins with a needle and a groove, with a message pressed into metal and launched into forever. Tonight's story is called The Voyager's Golden Record. Picture a room late at night, lights low, a turntable waiting. You lift a record from its sleeve, hold the warm weight in your palms, then set it down. A stylus lowers, a hiss like distant rain. And then,